So, welcome back to Magickology, and today I have my buddy Ahrimanahsul on with me, and we're going to be talking about any subjects that we get into. But first, I kind of thought of letting you introduce yourself to people that might have found you already, or people that are seeing you for the first time on my channel here.
Hello and welcome to Magickology. I am the sorcerer Ahrimanahsul, being interviewed by Mr. Priest of the Necro himself. Sorry, man, that name will never die with me. I loved it.
that was the first idea that came into my head when I made the channel. But like, why did you make a channel in the first place?
Inspiration. I did it because I saw what you did, and I was extremely impressed. I was like, wow, this guy's actually, you know, breaking this stuff down, and I was like, I gotta message this dude. I gotta, gotta find out what's going on here. How long's he been doing this? And not necessarily like videos, but your practice and all this. And as we got to communicating and talking and stuff, I was like, you know what? I want to do this because I'm used to dealing with people face to face and in person, and I've taught just about everything underneath the sun there is to actually teach. But this is my love. I love the Simon Necronomicon, all things Necronomicon, as a matter of fact. So that's probably why.
Yeah, because so I mean, you've been into magic a little bit longer than I have, and I know that when you interviewed me for your channel with the series Coffee with the Sorcerer,
Yeah.
you know, you and I both kind of talked about how we had different upbringings almost. Where
Yeah.
you were more into the ceremonial magic stuff. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah. Before I do that, I was raised up in foster care, and so I was always used to a chaotic life, and so it only just really developed as I got older, the interest in it, and I don't even think I actually knew that I was interested in magic in general till my brother threw the spell book of 50 names in my lap and working them, and they actually worked. Uh, but like I've said 100,000 times in my videos, though, when I went and I bought the complete Necronomicon by Simon, I realized I had absolutely no idea how to actually work the rites. And one of the very first things that I got into was high magic. I was reading Solamnic texts and stuff like that, um, conjurations, invocations, so forth and so on. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Huh. And now you and I have both done the gate walking initiations.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it would be really interesting to have a discussion about what those experiences were like, because it's not only, and I talk about this in some of my videos, it's not just the ritual itself that you do, and then it's like, okay, I did it. I guess I'm in a new gate now.
Yeah, right.
It's
It's
about
transformational.
yeah, it's about the energies that come up for you and the transformations that happen with each gate. So, I mentioned in mine like the Mars gate. There were things that came up in terms of like employment and work, and and even with the Adar gate or Saturn, I had to face a lot of like habits and things like that. What kind of things came up for you with the gate walking too?
Well, I'm gonna take a drink of water on that one because this is gonna be a mouthful. All right, so I didn't know what to expect. Just to be honest with you, I looked up on the year that I decided that I would actually do the gate walking. Well, having 20 years of occult knowledge underneath my belt, I understood uh, some of the things concerning the Chaldean magic was always formed underneath, the apex of these planets and these constellations, when they're at their utmost power. And it just so happened, and I don't know if luck or providence played a hand in this, but that same year that I decided I was going to do that, I was able to make each seal one per month and still have that month of that seal charging and be able to do the gate walking. I was, how you're supposed to do it. Um, I'm not gonna lie. I really, honestly, like I was saying, I had no idea what to expect or what would happen and any of this other stuff because I've traveled these gates, these planes, I've talked to these beings on an astral level. But actually doing the physical rituals along with the uh, where you place your consciousness on the astral planes while you're doing this at the same time, completely different. I would suggest this to anybody who knows how to work on astral planes but has never gone into the ritual aspect of it. I would suggest it highly. It's a much different experience, way different. From my first gate, uh, I did the walking, and I'll never forget. I had summoned the fire god, or I cleansed the temple, with the salt 60 times around the room, you know, doing the prayer. Even made the holy water with Anki's name vibrated 40 times over to charge it, as an extra layer of purifying the ritual area. And from that moment, with the anu shu bam giga su kisha giga gashad da sisi amaraya, I went to feeling this power, and I could just feel it, and it was purifying it as like a spiritual flame, and and I was like, holy crap, this is going to get fun, And then I summoned the fire god, and I'm like, Gish Bar Baka Bill, and it was like raising power and just seeing this gigantic fucking not an elemental flame being because the fire god's a much different aspect. The fire god is the inner flame within oneself. So and the fire god in this sense is the being that oversees the flame in all of us. And so summoning him by that way, all of a sudden you could feel this heat in my home, and I'm sitting there going, oh boy, because I'm sitting there like in this black robe and everything, and I've got these pieces of paper with these seals hanging from my chest and my waist. And I've got these marks on my arms and hands. And, uh, and it starts to get a little warm. And I'm like, okay, now it's time to conjure the Watcher. I conjure my Watcher, and I've told you this. The very first gate I actually walked, my Watcher, who I have worked with for 21 years up to that point, had always shown to be this tall man, dark skinned, never showed his face underneath his black robe. He appeared as the largest black dog I've ever seen in my life
Huh.
at the very first gate. And I'm like, holy crap, that's a new one on me. I'd never seen that one. And then when I started the conjuration of the gate with did the 4-quarter calling and did the crowning of the temple, I then had placed the gate seal on the ground, the gate itself, and had pointed at it, spoke its name, and walked around it the number of times according to it. And I'll never forget that when I had finished with the number of how many times you're supposed to, do the conjuration, because the way I do it's a little bit different. Like I'll point at the gate, I'll say its name, walk it the whole time. The whole time I'm hearing the name in my head, and so it's like a psychic speech. And then when I say its name, I'm vibrating it. And I'll never forget that when it comes time to do the conjuration of the gate, I like immediately saw, and at the same time, I felt like I should fall. And so, so when I did the conjuration, I immediately, you know, got on the ground, and I could see this gate up above, and I could see this being standing there, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is for real!" Like I'd never put two and two together, not like that. Like I said, the experience is different for everybody. Like I'm sitting here and I'm telling you my experience. It's going to be completely different. Um, and so now this is of Nana, and now Nana appears to me with these deer antlers, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting there going, "What the hell?" I was thinking maybe a crescent moon, or some kind of like silver and white color, something like this. No, I get this huge antlered being, and I'm sitting there going, "Wow." Lord of the Hunt indeed, huh? So this is where the witches get this horned god from. I get this of the moon. It makes sense. And for my communication with them, and I remember this feeling of like being accepted, and I don't know how to explain that any other way. I really don't. I just remember feeling like I was accepted by this being. It's the same as being hugged by somebody whom you know actually cares for you or loves you or whatever. And I remember, I almost missed out on asking what is the word that I need to walk to the next gate because I was so carried away in this experience. And I'd already went to turn, and I turned back around and I was like, it says according to the book that I need a word that I may pass to the second gate, and he gave me my words, whatever, and I thanked him and came back down, and it was really really weird because even though I'm coming back to my body, I felt like I was standing up, like, from like a lying down. I felt like I was standing up like really fast.
Huh.
It was really trippy. It was like the universe had turned upside down and gravity just like on your feet, you know, type thing. So, and and on for that month, I remember feeling like my natural psychic abilities had become finer tuned, more precise, more precision, and every gate after that had some kind of connection to a part of myself. So,
Yeah. And I mean, just the way you describe it, it is a really powerful experience. And there's I was like later on this week, I'm not sure when I'm going to put this video out, but I did a video on Carl Jung,
wow.
um, and his associations with psychology and stuff, and I was tying it into the gate walking, and he has this really famous quote of he's had, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but there's experiences that there's no way that I could describe them to you.
Yeah.
And I think that that really goes with the gate walking because we're given the structure and we're told, to fall on the floor and gaze to the sky, and then an experience happens. But I feel like I feel like the Necronomicon tries to it gives you it gives you a method of doing something, but aren't there kind of skills that one should have before
Oh yeah.
with it? I mean, my skill set when I started was different than yours.
Yeah.
And I think that depending on what your skills are, would kind of manipulate the experience that each person has a little bit. But what experiences or skills did you have that you think helped with being able to execute the gate walking properly?
Oh well. Oh, through seals and symbols are powers awakened and reawakened, my dear brother. Through seals and symbols are powers awakened and reawakened. I have to say that twice. It's my favorite saying of all. Uh, for example, I can just imagine at the number of people who have thrown themselves down and stared at their ceiling, expecting to see the heavens open above them. Uh, However, it's an internal thing. You're physically enacting a ritual that is attuning and vibrating and focusing the psyche to experience it on an internal level through external actions. And so,
I like the way you put that.
so the vision happens within, not so much outward. That's the problem with man trying to always seek after God,
Huh.
is that you're not going to find any. If you don't find it within you, you'll not find it without you. That's just the simple of it. Uh, as far as like different things that I could suggest or say, definitely meditation, 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 meditation. That is one of the most important aspects because you need to learn to silence the mind. You need to learn to still it. You need to learn to find your energy centers and be in alignment with them. before any working, and then the rest of it's just cake, man. You just understand just the basics of ritual itself. Ritual simple. You got four corners that you're calling upon. You got the fire god. You've got your watcher. Uh, and then you might have like a spirit or something that you're summoning, you're working with. But it's all under basic ritual, and it's usually a lot simpler than a lot of people try to make it. I've heard the argument that, oh, well, if it's so simple, ritual is not necessary. Ritual is not necessary. I've never thought that myself, but there's a huge but in this. But the experience is completely different when you actually do the actual ritual.
Huh. Yeah. And thanks for that. One of the other things is, you started with the Book of 50 Names back in the day, and I did too. And that's a bit of a debate within the community around the Simon Necronomicon, because the book says you can't use the powers of each sphere until you've passed the sphere.
Right.
And as we know, the 50 Names of Marduk are attributed to the sphere of Jupiter, which Jupiter, Marduk, yeah. But so why do you think that the 50 work for some people when they haven't even engaged in the gate walking?
Well, you've got to imagine that you have this planet called Jupiter, and it emits this enormous energy. That energy itself collectively has been called many names. In our tradition, we call it Marduk. Uh, the spirits that come from it, like the 50, they are powers, or if you will, masks that Marduk himself actually wears, hence why they're his powers.
Yep.
You know, it reminds me of the ancient North Scandinavian thing where they would have horns on their helms. There were horns of power, of so forth and so on, and it's similar in essence to that. Why do these 50 work even though you've never walked the gates? Because honestly, you gotta be that rebellious nature in man to be egotistical enough to say, I'm going to do this, I don't care what. You know, it nothing screams magical success than that attitude. And I think that that's why it works. As far as, well, then why does the book say you should walk the gates? Well, I think that's a whole nother cookie jar. I think then you're talking about those who were called as its priests and priestesses. And for the priests and priestesses, like whether or not, like we may have called and worked with them even before we walked the Jupiter gate. Cool thing about it is that did that affect our priesthood or working with these beings or anything like this? I don't think it did. I think it made it stronger. I do.
I
Uh,
agree.
I think that what we call subjective reality is at play in all magic. Okay, so your reality is going to be completely different from mine. Okay, what we pick up on is where the subjective comes in. That's your individual perception or what you get from it. It's why, like, your list of descriptions and things that that these planets represent and the things you need to work on, like in the gates, the spheres and beyond. Your book. Uh, I myself, I can look at that list of those attributes and things and so forth and so on, exercises, but they don't click with me per se. Like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. But take into account somebody who's just starting this path. I could not suggest a better book to help with that. And it's not me kissing ass or trying to sell your books. I'm just saying straight up for the newcomer, the one who needs the guidance. I think your book is perfect as a hand in hand, guide with it. Just because of that, because not everybody's me, not everybody's you. You know, and some people are better at some things, and some people are better at other things. Whatever those strengths. But we all also have our own weaknesses. You
Yep.
know, and part of that will always come into play in our rituals. You know, Like people think that a ritual is only when you set aside time to do a magic rite. Uh, I wake up and I go make my coffee and I sit down and I'm sitting there and I'm setting the pace mentally, emotionally, physically, so forth and so on. That is a ritual. All things are ritual.
Yep.
And I loved it when Aleister Crowley said that. Big fan of that guy. I don't care what he was.
Yeah. I had this conversation with my grandma one time where when she started to learn that I was into everything that I'm into, where how rituals are bad. And I said that she should mention that to everyone at night before they brush their teeth.
Ooh.
That in itself, you brush your teeth before you go to bed. It's any pre-programmed or pre-learned process. I just had to throw a little bit of that humor in there. But so we've talked about the gate walking and even working with the 50. But one of the things that I found to be a giant like gray area or misnomer with even the back of the book of the Necronomicon spellbook talks about summoning entities to physical appearance.
Ooh.
And I think that everyone grabs at that book and even Ghost Adventures on I want to say sci-fi maybe. It's either that or the Travelers.
No, I saw the episode. They were underneath that bridge using the Ahrimanahsul. I was like, really?
But
stay inside the circle. You'll be safe.
I don't think they did double circles though, because you're supposed to do a double.
Oh, that was a funny episode.
They should have watched my vids first.
They could have learned all they needed to know. But like, wait a minute, we have a cell phone. Let's look up Priest of the Necro. Okay, this is the guidance.
But in terms of evoking spirits and working with them, you have a lot of history with being able to work with a lot of different beings. And now, does that happen more on the mental and astral planes rather than the physical plane, or how does it work for you?
Oh, I wished it would stay on the astral plane sometimes. Sweet gods, man. Holy shit, it would be nice if that's exactly where it stayed, because then it's like I can come and go back and hey, look, we're all in our own homes. No, it doesn't always work like that. First off, let me say, evocation by its nature, by its very nature, is to actually the older forms was to manifest or materialize as said spirit. Is this possible? Certainly. You put enough smoke to an egregore or a mask that you're trying to summon, and of course, based on the practitioner's mentality and strength of will and being able to maintain the image and the form, they can create the energy in a said area, and the smoke will help it to form. Like there's a lot more to it. Most people don't understand that. They think, oh, well, I'll just get a really smoky incense and they'll appear. And it doesn't work like that. You have to have a lot of years underneath your belt for maintaining the mind and the focus to be able to make stuff like that happen. Then, of course, there are the things like, it's why I'm appreciative of the Anu Shub prayer for cleansing consecration, and also the exorcism of the crown of Anu. I cannot state enough how important and useful that is. About the time I started getting to the Saturn gate, I was supposed to have done this on October during the full moon, and get this, the full moon fell on a Saturday, even in the hour of Saturn where I live. Well, I had been sick and down for a week, and I literally could not do this ritual. But I'll never forget, I could feel the gate open. I could feel its energies. And between that time and the next month when I actually got to walk the gate, I had already undergone a Saturnian change or whatever. And so come December, when I actually, or November, no, it was November. That's right. It was done in November. In December, I actually walked it, and I was afraid maybe I'd missed the door.
Mm.
It didn't work out that way. The powers were just as strong because I'd already formulated them within my energetic body. I had already, gone through it because of, for whatever reason. And the really weird, interesting thing is that, and not concerning the Saturn gate, but concerning evocation of spirits and energies like this, is that when you're doing these rites, when you're doing these workings, it is not the big things that you have to worry about. Because I've had all kinds of things come and go from my home, my temple. Of course, it's blessed, consecrated wards, the whole 9 yards, to keep out what I do not desire, what does not, you know, release all that does not serve me. I'm at one with myself. I'm at one with the universe, as Christopher Pinzak would say. I use this formula because there are things that are attracted to us. We're like bright lights on the astral, and they are the moths.
Yep.
And you've got to be very careful. But it's not the big things, and I can't stress this detail enough. It's not the big things you got to worry about, because where walk the big things, behind them is a wake where they've disturbed the ground and they've shook up anything, and those little things, they follow in behind. And usually when you summoned or conjured or worked or evoked with these big spirits, I don't care if it's goetic spirits, I don't care if it's Persian jinn, I don't care what it is. Whenever you summon and you work with these things, be aware and be mindful and know that they're not the only ones there. Uh, and not just necessarily their familiar spirits that work with them, but there are small little nasty things that, well, for lack of better word, they're like carrion birds. They eat the leftovers, the remnants, and those are the things that we contend with in the book when it's talking about the larvae and the salt being used to kill them and to maintain their growth so that they don't abide or connect on this plane around the practitioner. Enough cannot be said about that. Sea salt is by far my favoriteest method of keeping my home clean from these astral nasties that do come through. So that's, maybe I went a little bit on tangent. I apologize, but
Fascinating stuff, though.
that's my take on evocation. Just don't be scared, but be mindful and knowledgeable that where the big things come, the little things follow.
Yeah. Now, you've done a lot of traveling different planes and such, and you have I love your concept, which I think is the namesake of your channel, correct?
Yes, it is.
And could you explain that a little bit? Because when people explore the astral, it's almost like they feel like they're going on a safari, and they're just off in the middle of the woods. But you yourself kind of discuss about making a home there almost.
Oh yeah, and high magic, and this is where I got the concept of the idea. They were saying that your ritual area is also your ritual area on the astral plane.
Huh.
So where you abide here, you abide there. It's like a little pocket space. And I use the same concept in the work in the Necronomicon. Uh, and in the third year, uh, when working with the old ones, with working with the gate to the outside and stuff, Eaxacock and all that, uh, what's going to happen is that your magical universe is going to take a slightly darker shift, and your universe is going to become larger. You're going to realize all of a sudden there are grand architects that are behind everything. The reason they're so far away is because they're so deep within us. They're what's known as the root or the primal aspect of self, and that's their connection to us. And in these workings, like when you're working with the Zonai, you're working with the conscious. When you're working with the Azanai, you're working with the subconscious. When you're working with the old ones, you're working with the reptilian part of the brain or the unconscious. It's where instinct comes from. It's where all the little ticks come from too, if you think about it. But the thing is that you need a place that is safe, and not because it's dangerous or anything like that, but because once again, you're getting to the root of yourself, where all these things, where all these atavistic urges, drives, it's what has formed is the bedrock of what has formed your personality. Okay, and so this is a quite dangerous area. This is where reprogramming comes in. This is where you can lose sight. This is where psychosis can occur. And so it's very important that the very first thing you do, create your tower, create your temple. I don't care if you make a pyramid that you can enter in, which I had one forever and a day. I really enjoyed it, but only when I was working, only when I was doing only with my Golden Dawn thelemic workings do I use the pyramid. So like I'll have like two or three different astral places I go for different things. Uh, my favorite by far is the Garden of the Gods. That is the coolest place to ever go. Next to the Graveyard of Angels. That's fun.
I'm gonna have to take notes on this.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But anyway, so back to the Black Tower. Okay, so in some of the Necronomicon stuff, you run across the what is it, Relayan mysteries and all this other stuff, and this H.P. Lovecraft and blah blah blah, yakety schmackety, all this other stuff. Doesn't matter the name. It matters what it actually represents and what it connects with. The Tower of Thoth stands in the dead center, and from it are the eight winds or the eight directions, and from these are these eight beings. And the Black Tower is the central piece. And as far as like our Facebook group or YouTube, it is a place where I invite other sorcerers, other practitioners of this arcane art to find a place on the astral, whether they consciously know what they're doing or not, whether they accept it and can actually travel there, or whether it's a subconscious thing. I invite them because it is a safe place. It's kind of like it's just got walls, man. It protects and it holds in place, but it focuses energy. Instead of being like a trap or like the tower card of the tarot where lightning strikes and it's destroyed, blah, 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 that is an archetypal situation that can happen, but it's based on the individual. But in this sense, it's a solid foundation. It is a place where the different parts of your consciousness come together as one in a safe place, and a place which you can explore the unknown. And that's what that comes from.
Wow. I feel like my brain just expanded because even when we've been talking here, I feel like we've talked about stuff in this interview that we never touched on before almost.
I was about to say, I mean, we skirted around the edges, but yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of anything stereotype for my videos, trying to think of anything else that we can add to this here. But I mean, in terms of working with the Necronomicon, the gate walking, or anything in regards to working with spirits, do you think that there's any other important kind of information that you would be able to relay to people that they might not know in terms of those experiences?
Well, it goes back to the meditation, right? So in meditation, we learn to silence the mind and we learn to become consciously aware of our energetic self. After this comes the idea of being able to hold an image or a form in our head, in our mind. Then you learn how to project that image. And then so forth and so on. It's like a snowball. It just keeps rolling and building and growing. Because the mind is all is mind, and it all starts in the mind. As far as anything you can add to it or take from it, because there's a lot of people that go, well, I don't want it to all be in my head, or this is real and you're not understanding me, because I've heard a lot of arguments, and it's like, look, it doesn't matter your experience, it doesn't matter whether you agree or disagree, but the root of it is in the mind. It's not that these gods do not exist, because they very much do, but they don't exist the way we think they do. And that's part of understanding, because see, we use these formulas and these formats and these builds so that we can achieve gnosis, understanding, and then personal spiritual growth. Okay. At the same time, that ritual format, that buildup of all this, that, and the other, it makes sure that our mind and our actions are one. You
Huh.
know, and this is taught even in high magic. This is taught in a lot of different lodges and groups and things, which I'm self-taught. So you
So,
know, so I didn't have a teacher. I had to like literally find what I could find in books, so forth and so on, and then I'd meditate and I'd work on it. But the biggest thing that I did learn was that you've got to do the work. You've got to do it. I don't mean like, oh, every day has to be filled with magic from the time you get up to the time you get down. You don't have to stay studying books. That's a monastic life if I've ever heard of it, which I've lived it. Hey, don't get me wrong, I've lived it. I was there for like 8, 9 years. Uh, but then, you got to learn that once you've got this underneath your belt, once you've got it under your hat, so to speak, it's okay to relax a little bit, not be so uptight. But the idea is continual practice, continual meditation, continual rites. I don't care what system it's from. If it builds you up as a person, if it strengthens the mind, if it strengthens the will, if it strengthens the body, you
huh.
know, that well, our system is perfect. The Simon Necronomicon, it's got it all. It shows it. It's just, are you able to actually, get it from what you're reading or not? Do you have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, type spiritual mumbo jumbo, taken, you know? But it is what it is, man.
I mean, like I said, I feel like I've learned a lot from just talking with you about this, and I'd like to echo the idea of practice, and especially regular practice, and that's one of the things that I think in my a lot of my videos and my books I say meditation, regular meditation, daily if possible. That's it.
If
That's
possible, I like that. If possible.
it's a catchphrase, almost. It's like it's gonna be a thing, and then there's gonna be a little TM next to it. But I mean,
I meditate with my coffee. Serious, because most of the time during the day, I don't know if I'll have time to sit down and meditate or anything.
yep,
So usually when I'm first waking up, I'm sitting there meditating, setting the internal tone.
yep,
You do it with what you got to do with it.
and I I really think that we've been able to cover so much about the gate walking
Yeah.
that I haven't exactly been able to put in my videos because your perspective is a different one than mine, and that's one of the things that you just talked about, where people might get into disagreements about exactly how things are experienced. But that's one of those, like when I first started working with magic, there was the idea of like the mysteries, right? And
Yeah.
the first time that I read that, I was like, they got to be in a book somewhere, right? There's got to be a list. They got to be in a
You know
book,
how many books I read because of that had the
right?
mysteries, the mysteries.
What are they? And I think
What are they? Oh,
if
I
I
like it. What are they?
if I wrote a book titled that, I I I'd move to Hawaii with the money. Because I bet you that a lot of like guys that just jump into it,
Yeah.
they would they would go for that because a lot of people, they don't understand that these things take work. Magic is a muscle. Magic is it's a skill. It's a practice that takes, it's like riding a bike. It took me until I was 16 to figure it out. Whereas other people are like, I rode a bike by 6. What was your problem? You know,
I didn't ride one until I was 9 without
so
training wheels. So, I mean, come on.
so magic is different. It's a different experience for everyone. You'd agree with that?
Say that one more time.
Magic is a different experience for everyone.
It very much is. I want to elaborate on a little thought, though, if you don't mind. Okay, so magic to me is sacred. Magic to me, if I had to think of what God would be, I would think of it as magic.
I like it.
And magic is one beautiful bitch. And I'm her number one bitch. Uh, and it's humorous, but at the same time, uh, then there's some people that's like, I am powerful with the magic, blah blah blah, and then you got some people that are like, you know, oh, it's a gentle touch. Magic is ever flowing like a soft breeze. You got all these different takes on what magic is and isn't, and there's nothing wrong with any of them because that's your own personal. That's what That's what awakened it inside you, and that's what keeps you moving and doing working with it. Uh, you know, to me, I used to go around calling myself, I'm the high priest of the gods. And the gods were, oh, wow, man. They were like, I didn't sit there and go, oh, I'm a priest of Marduk or I'm a priest of Anki. No, I was a high priest of the gods. Simple, simple. And you could tell from my works and the way I presented myself and the thing, and how natural I came to it. But that comes back to the feeling the call and answering it and actually connecting with it. And each current is each current is different. Each current is different. It does something different to you. But magic itself, it's like without form. It's formless. And that's why I equated it to, if there is such a thing as a god, magic would be it because it brings life. It kills. It's so neutral but so alive. It's not necessarily neutral. I don't know how to explain that. Uh,
It's the force and reason behind everything.
yeah, it's I guess what some people would refer to as Gaia as the spirit of the earth. Magic is the spirit of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And whether you're a Wiccan, whether you're a Satanist, whether you're Luciferian, whether you're this, whether you're that, magic impacted and imprinted your life according to the design of the spirit within you. And you got to kind of trust on it. You've got to trust in that inner you. What I call my holy daemon, being my highest and best self. And we're not talking about angels and oh, I'm such a do-gooder, and it's not an evil, Darth Vader. It ain't nothing like that. But my holy daemon being the highest and best form of myself, uh, is it's like a guiding light. It just drives me, and and it sustains life as well as gives it. And when you're in touch with yourself that deeply, when you know yourself that well, magic is like breathing. Everything you say and do and touch becomes magic. And I think that's the goal of all practitioners, whether you call yourself a sorcerer, a magician, a priest, a high priest, or whatever title, whether it's freighter, soror, rev, pastor, or whatever. I think that's the ultimate thing.
Wow. That's deep. This is why I love talking to this guy.
I had my half a pot of coffee, bitches.
Because I mean, your knowledge is so fascinating. So we're definitely going to have to do this again.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell
yeah. So do you want to tell people how they're able to find you or connect with you either on YouTube or Facebook?
Well, my email is darkangelofthesun1010@gmail.com. Facebook, it's Waylon Srzinski. That's a really hard name to spell, that last one. The Black Tower on Facebook, but it's a secret group. It's closed secret, something like that. So for an invite or a question for an invite, either email me or find me on Facebook. Hell, even comment under the Black Tower on YouTube. I always to find it. I always put the Black Tower and then Necronomicon. That's the easiest way to find me on YouTube if it's somebody just looking for me. And the reason why is because I got this Dark Tower, the Black Tower, this, Black Tower, that, and it's Idris Elba, and I fucking love Idris Elba. But that's I like him because for British actors he's the shit. but that's neither here nor there. I apologize about that. I do go on these rambles.
That's what makes
But,
this so fun.
right. Uh, but to give back to this community, the Black Tower originally on Facebook was a place to bring sorcerers together to work together. I do have a rule where it's like I only accept sorcerer types, and here's why. I don't need dogma. I don't need anything like that. We're non-religious, even though we might be considered religious in a really weird way. Non-dogmatic. I like to think of myself as spiritual, not religious, which is a big difference. But if and it's not about necessarily believing in good and evil because we try to break past those barriers. But a lot of the stuff with the Black Tower, whether on Facebook, whether on YouTube, anything like that, has always been to be not necessarily a leader, but not a follower, just a support. It's supposed, it's the base, the foundation. You know, it's why I have so many great friends, is because we work together so well. There's no ego involved. There's none of this. There's just pure friendship, pure brotherhood, sisterhood. There's that connection, and I think that that's important.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's a bit of the information and the ways that they can find you.
Oh
And,
yeah. Just add links below this video, Nick.
yeah, I was just about to say there's gonna be some links and some contact info, that you guys can check out in the description down below. I think that this whole time this recording is actually gonna have me up here in the corner. So you're definitely center stage here, and I'm the tiny guy. But that's more of the purpose. But
Well, the video it'll show up half and half actually.
So just to wrap this up, I really really appreciate having you on here, and I love the conversation we had because it's not like we've touched on some of these things before.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you inviting me, man. This is hella different for me because I'm in the middle of doing interviews with I don't know how many people, and so this is really nice to just sit back and be able to just talk instead of having to figure out how I'm gonna do this, how I'm gonna do that. So thank you very much for having me on your channel, brother.
All right. So, yeah.
And thank you to your audience for humoring my crazy ass.
So I wish you a good hunting and everyone else a good hunting.
Peace, blessings, and power.